The Weedsman Podcast. ChristopherMedia.net.
This is Brad Milkey of ABC News Start Here podcast with your sports update. Down one star, the Golden State Warriors keep winning thanks to the rejuvenation of another. We'll explain coming up.
Bodega, Alpha and Omega. Siamese sailors sell celery sandwiches. Sawing-a-bada serving platter.
Hey, Jamie?
Yes?
Did you want to try reading that line on the script there?
Oh, yeah, let's see. You could save big when you bundle your home and auto with Progressive, that one?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I'm just not warmed up yet. Shouldn't be long. Detector test.
Bundle your home and auto with Progressive today.
The marmot mangled my mushu pork pancake.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Warrior star Klay Thompson is out for the 2021 season with a torn Achilles tendon, but in his absence, two-time MVP Steph Curry has stepped up in a big way. Curry sits near the top of the league in points scored and three-pointers made and set a new personal best with 62 points in a single game.
This ABC Sports Update was brought to you by Progressive. Drivers who switch to Progressive can save an average of $668.
Imagine cooking dinner with Blue Apron. Finally unwinding. Trying new recipes for your lifestyle, like vegetarian, WW approved, carb conscious, and more. Learning new skills. And discovering new territory. All without breaking your budget. Imagine all this in one box delivered right to your door. Check out Blue Apron's new wellness menu and get $80 off your first 4 orders when you visit blueapron.com/80off.
Christopher Media. Let's make some noise. From Asthma Studios near Detroit, Michigan.
Oh, man.
It's the Weedsman Podcast.
I have no idea what's going on.
And now,
you have smoked yourself retarded.
Here are the Weedsmen.
You want to get high?
All right, last show of February. I'm Chris.
I'm Aaron. Is it February's getting phased out already?
Yeah.
Well, it is a shorter month. It always goes by quicker.
Yeah, we're already in the 20s on the dates. In the end, February's got the...
There you go.
It's the weird month. It's the 28-dayer. Is there a month that used to have, like, 34? Or was there a couple 32-day months? How'd that even happen?
What do you mean?
How'd February get 28? No one else has 28.
You mean, like, why didn't they get divided up evenly?
Yeah, or did someone else have... Like I said, was it, like, 34 days in March or January? And they were like, eh... Or no, wait, I don't. I'm high already.
No, I know what I know what you're trying to say, but I don't know.
Or did February have was February only like 3 weeks? And I'm like, let's make it an even 4. Or did every month have 28 days and then they added on extras?
I think you have to figure that the initial construct was to divide it up evenly, right? You have the seasons, right? So once you identify the seasons. And you kind of block off a year, then you're just subdividing. So it wasn't until, the calendar started getting out of whack, right? So your initial thing is like, well, we figured out how long a year is, and let's divide this up so we can kind of mark where the seasons are going to be. And you're kind of off because it's like not a perfect science. You don't have all the tools to perfectly calculate the length of a year. And so over the course of decades, you're way off. Your calendar is telling you to plant and you're looking at snow on the ground.
It's all to do with the Romans and their superstitions.
Goddamn Romans.
The Gregorian calendar's oldest ancestor, the first Roman calendar, had a glaring difference in structure from its later variants. It consisted of 10 months rather than 12. In order to fully sync the calendar with the lunar year, the Roman king Numa Pompilius added January and February to the original 10 months. The previous calendar had 6 months of 30 days and 4 months of 31 for a total of 304 days. However, Numa wanted to avoid having even numbers in his calendar, as Roman superstition at the time held that even numbers were unlucky. He subtracted a day from each of the 30-day months to make them 29. The lunar year, whatever. Okay, yeah. Fucking stupid bullshit with the Romans.
See?
TLDR.
He just made, like, 6 days out of the year disappear.
Yeah.
Like, that'll fuck your shit up right there. That's why you can't design a calendar by committee.
Yeah. What if we just said Romans hated black people, so they gave them the shortest month for Black History Month? Sounds like an easier answer.
No, I mean...
2021 answer.
I'm sure you could trace it, but I think if you want a full answer as to how you get, like, to February being the shortest and only month to have 28 days in it, that's like asking why the elephant's trunk is so long. Like, you could say it's, so it can...
Because that's what the Lord wanted.
Right? Like, if you ask, the initial thought is to answer that question, which is like, why the elephant has well, it's not really why it has a trunk, but you think the initial why is like, so it can hose itself down, get shit off of trees, shove stuff in its mouth, really? But that's not the why. That's what it's learned to do with its long trunk. Why does it have a long trunk? It didn't decide one day to, like, I bet you if my nose was longer, I could pick those leaves up.
It's something that evolved, right?
Yeah. And there's an actual evolution that happened between, over the course of us trying to nail down the length of a day, of a year, of a month, that would probably be a long evolution to track. But there's not enough shows like that. Or maybe I just can't find them. But How It's Made was really popular, and I enjoyed it. But How It's Made was just very specific. A sprocket. How It's Made. A rocking chair.
How It's Made was like a show. Remember, like those on Sesame Street or Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood? They'd be like, "This is how you make crayons." It was like they made a show out of those clips.
Absolutely, but I love that shit. I love seeing different manufacturing processes.
I'm not saying I didn't watch it.
I'm a nerd for that shit.
Yeah. I'm not saying I've never seen it.
Yeah. And plus, it's just some cool visuals. If you're high and you don't want to necessarily watch something, like you don't want to get involved in a drama or something, but it's like, I just want to smoke this joint and watch something.
Be like, whoa, that's how they make that. No shit. Roll another one.
Yeah, exactly. But
it's a marathon. Sweet.
I miss the shows like the shit that was on PBS. I can't remember. There was one specifically that I wish I could remember the name of. And it was just this old British dude who would track the history of something, right? So, I don't know, like it would start with something mundane. It'd be like a toilet, right? Yeah. How do you get to this toilet here? And so, if you were to ask that question at a bar, you'd be like, well, I don't know, somebody like was tired of crapping on the ground and thought, let's just put something you can sit on, right? But that's like answering, like, why does the elephant have a long trunk? So he can eat the leaves. Well, that's not why he has it. That's what he's learned to do with it and how it's adapted into its life. But the actual why of how you get to indoor plumbing, even, and figuring out the technology that, is fairly simple but not intuitive, how a toilet works. As a matter of fact, you show most people a cross-section of how a toilet flushes, they go, no, that's not how it works, dummy. They don't believe it.
Why not?
Because it looks weird. You're getting water to move in the wrong direction without pumping it. People don't understand that. Anyway, man, I'm getting off on a real tangent here. So, the show. He would take something, mundane, and then he'd go, well, let's explore the history of it. And they'd do these like little reenactments too, which were fun. But he'd go, this all starts with this French guy in 1402 who documented, him studying lice. He had discovered that there are these microscopic little, insects called lice, and he was trying to figure out what they were, right? And so then you're trying, well, how the fuck do you get from lice to a toilet? But he connects every part of that story for you. So it's multi-layered. You get some of the story of human invention and how ideas get passed down from one to another, but also there's the story of humans themselves in amongst all of that, because, what makes certain ideas flourish and others wilt. It's ultimately how the public reacts to it. You can invent the greatest thing in the world, but if you don't present it in a way that people understand and can easily adapt into their lives, they don't care.
With them,
yeah. Yeah, exactly. What's in it for them? So anyway, hey, Daft Punk broke up this week. I thought that's what I was going to start the show out with. You didn't hear about that? It was all over the social medias.
No, I didn't.
People were very upset about Daft Punk breaking up. 28 years.
Wasn't the last thing they did like the Tron soundtrack?
No, I want to say they've done something since, and they've been doing other stuff. That they've done other soundtrack work, like not anything huge.
I mean, that sucks. I enjoyed their music. They were one of the artists that got me into EDM, and that made me realize it could be a lot more than the four on the floor. That they opened up like, oh, this can be electronic music. All right, cool.
And not to like indie rock you, but I was into techno well into when Daft Punk showed up. And well, they were kind of like, so Daft Punk was part of this whole movement of French house.
Yes.
And so there are a lot of French artists that were taking the sounds of, mostly this was more so the type of techno music that was coming out of Chicago, like full on praise type of house, vocalists and, horn tracks and shit. Like some of the shit sounds more like disco than techno. And they're also doing it with this, I don't know if I can accurately describe what I would consider to be the French house sound, but it's much tighter.
Yes.
Especially when you listen to those earlier Daft Punk stuff. When, later stuff, they started actually going back into retro. The stuff, the earlier period stuff, they were trying to push the boundaries of techno music at the time. And that was part of the sound. Like compact house, some people have referred to it as, mixes well with some more minimal records. So just like a tight snare, not a big banging snare. Not a, actually I was going to say, not a 909 hi-hat, probably not even a drum machine hi-hat. They're more likely to find like a shaker track off of a funk record.
Well, I say it's more reminiscent of 70s R&B music.
Yeah, absolutely. They were sampling from that and also producing in that style too.
Yes,
and it wasn't all. And it wasn't all just house music. There was certainly Air was another big band at the time that, if they just kept producing music, could have been as big as Daft Punk. They did the whole Virgin Suicide soundtrack, and a lot of those songs were pretty popular, but they never got anything that took off as well as Daft Punk did.
But too, also Air kind of disappeared up their own ass. That was also kind of
they
their
went
deal.
on. Well, they were also more of just a musician duo who put out some electronic music. Like they kind of wanted to, as soon as people started throwing some budget at them and some real studio time, they're like, let's get some session guys in here. Like we're making they wanted to make like a bossa nova version of Dark Side of the Moon. That's ultimately where they went. Where Daft Punk, they adapted, they definitely changed, but they remained true to house music roots. And it shows in everything that they do. Even the Tron soundtrack.
Tron soundtrack was kind of like the pinnacle of their shit.
Oh, yeah, and I'm not saying that dismissively. I really enjoy the Tron soundtrack. And that, we watched, my youngest and I watched the Tron Legacy again pretty recently. Because I was just like, it was before WandaVision started, so I'm like, I got to use something on this Disney Plus app to make me feel like I'm getting my money's worth. So what's the stuff that's really worth rewatching? And honestly, I've seen Tron Legacy more times than I've seen Tron. Part of that is because my kids attached to it better than I tried to get them to watch the original and they weren't interested, but they loved Tron Legacy. So it was something that we could watch together. But
oh my God, I remember when the original Tron would come on network TV. I'd be like, oh my God, no! That movie is so bad.
Nothing's going to. Oh, you hated it?
I hated it so bad.
Oh, dude, I was all
to me,
about
it was dude, because
it's a bad movie. You're right, though.
It was so long and boring. I remember being like, just,
it is.
To me, it was like The President was on for 4 hours. That's how I felt when I'd see it come on. Like, you might as well just be The President on for 4 hours.
I was just enthralled with it, but I knew, I had friends that weren't into Tron at all. You try and watch it with them, and they're like, why are they still explaining the game?
Yeah, but the soundtrack, and though, Daft Punk, though, are they a little bit responsible for the drop?
For the drop?
The wah, 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 the dubstep drop. Weren't they kind of the pioneers of it? Especially on that Tron soundtrack?
No. So this goes back further. So dubstep goes back a lot further than because dubstep actually totally morphed into a bunch of different things before some of this wobbly bassline stuff started hitting the radio.
Yeah.
And then there was kind of a resurgence on it, but it was all commercial shit mostly. The Skrillex.
Yes,
right?
But that's what I'm saying. Was Daft Punk maybe one of the pioneers of the wobbly bass line?
I could see, absolutely, because the first time I remember hearing Daft Punk, it was something that sounds quite different from anything that they're known for today, and that's rolling and scratching. That was that the B? No, it wasn't the B-side to Music. It was the B-side to something that was a more like housey track. But I remember that 12-inch drop in. The house guys would play the A-side a little bit, but the techno guys latched on to the B-side, which was rolling and scratching. And it's just pulsing techno. And it has this like screeching, it's the screeching bass line that just builds and builds and builds.
I wish we wouldn't get copyright strikes and we could play this shit now. Fucking YouTube. I'd like to give the audience a frame of reference, but I can't.
Yeah, but you can look it up. And I think I can understand it's not necessarily everyone's cup of tea. It's not even a track that I think was designed to, be put on a compilation and pop up randomly in your car. And you're like, yeah, I'm going to listen to all 7.5 minutes of rolling and scratching, because it just kind of does the same thing over and over again. It's a DJ track, really. It's kind of, it's like the Plastic Man shit. Like, Plastic Man was pretty big around Detroit, of course.
Oh, yeah.
And so he sold a lot of CDs. That was kind of everyone's raver intro. That was my first rave, was a Plastic Man party.
Richie Houghton.
Yeah. But, I'm not going to sit down and listen to GAC, a track that is just like all drums that just builds and builds and builds. I mean, in the mix, yeah, it sounds fucking amazing. But like, there's just, that's why I downloaded, Native Instruments has a free DJ app that you can get for the iPad or iPhone. I'd highly recommend it if you're into techno music at all, or even just curious about it, because that's ultimately how most of this stuff was meant to be listened to. Now, Daft Punk was doing more like, obviously, radio-friendly shit. The French house sound they were kind of different in their production, too, in that they weren't just doing a 7-minute, 8-minute track with, like, beats on the beginning and end so you can mix it nicely. They were just doing like, hey, we got a nice groove going. This is a great bass line. This track is 4.5 minutes long, so stay on your toes.
Heads up.
Because so there was more like you were saying, that more soul R&B type of production. They were going more for like a song in a lot of cases than they were for necessarily a floor banger. Now, they banged on the floor. You just had to know how to handle them right.
They had good ears for constructing music.
if you're curious at all about what we're describing, I'm trying to think of some other artists. Like iCube is definitely one that has done. There's a lot of great albums out there, and the stuff it ranges from dubby house to deep techno to more chill out, like trip hop kind of stuff. Oh, Pepe Braddock is another one that I really enjoy, especially if you really like Chicago house. A lot of his stuff is like, a lot of vocals, a lot of disco sample stuff, and really fun party music.
Why did Daft Punk break up? Did they say?
They didn't say, and I can only imagine that it's just because what else are they doing right now? Right? You might as well get a boost out of breaking up so that if you ever decide that you do want to go on tour, then it can be a reunion tour and you can sell more.
Well, they got to be, at least in their 50s? Like, just 28 years? If they get together when they're 21, they're 49.
So, my first question was, why? Why would they even break up? Why wouldn't it... I mean, even if they never made music again, why wouldn't it just be an extended hiatus that just they never came back from? And it made me kind of a little disappointed in Daft Punk, if I'm to be honest, because they have held fast to, if you really want to know what these dudes look like, you can find out. But I don't know what they look like because I don't really even care. And that's their thing, They have this. They wear the helmets at all times, and that's part of the shtick, right? And I thought that if you really wanted to go all the way with that shtick, then Daft Punk can live forever,
right? You just pass it off to two other dudes,
yeah. Or maybe one of them decides they want to quit, and they just get a new,
right.
Left Punk or whatever they're called.
Yeah. Left Punk.
Had to get a new Left Punk. So, I don't know.
Like how Menudo
might have judged.
Always changed.
Right. I think that would be great because, I don't know, there's so many great techno producers out there, and you could just easily slip them in. And, it almost works as its own kind of statement on art. Like, now you really don't know. It's not just that we've never overturned the shell and shown you the ball underneath. It's that there's no way to try it. My analogy's gone now.
What do you say? You hear what we're saying, Dead Mouse? You never have to die.
Right. I don't think Dead Mouse should.
Just keep on passing the helmet.
Yeah. Come on. Let's not mythologize this too much, guys. Electronic music is great, and I'm not trying to even put it on a different or lower pedestal of other types of music. I'm just, there's plenty of other people who can do this. That's the weirdest thing about Daft Punk is that there were so many great producers from that movement that just never got traction. And why Daft Punk gets traction is just luck. I think Daft Punk are great producers. I don't think that they're any better or worse than any of the other people that I've mentioned.
They had a good agent that got them through to the American audience.
And ultimately what you have here is you have a vehicle of you're, like it or not, Daft Punk are ambassadors of techno because who else is? I ask you. If Daft Punk were not the ambassadors of techno, who could challenge them on that? Who else could come from deep techno roots and chart on the radio right now?
Probably some dudes that some 25-year-olds would tell us.
There might be somebody behind the scenes. I'll grant you that. Yes. But this is, again, you could cycle through a number of different artists through the Daft Punk name and bring a lot more music to the world. Just, people will buy it, go, oh, there's the new Daft Punk. And maybe someone will go, this sounds nothing like the Daft Punk that I used to listen to, but I love it. And others will go, this is dog shit. And that's fine.
No, this is Daft Punk.
I think I would have supported Daft Punk in turning themselves more into a brand, because I thought that's kind of what they were doing. But who's to know? I mean,
listen, we're passing on to our kids. It's theirs now. Yeah, and for all we know, it could have been two ladies the whole time, or it could be two ladies now.
But still, great body of work. They are great producers. I'm not trying to diminish them in any way. If they want to retire, I absolutely support them in doing so. If they don't want anyone else to be Daft Punk, that's fine. That's that is their choice.
What if they're old as shit? What if they were like 40, 30 years ago, and they're like, "No, dude, we're in our late 70s. We want to literally retire."
But it's just crazy to think that the guys who made that Rollin' and Scratchin' record that. How many years ago?
It just makes me think.
Like going on 25 years ago, I want to say that I was listening to in some the basement of some shut down club or in the Packard plant or somewhere with my head buried in a bass cabinet. To think that those guys, like if you tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, these dudes are going to score the next Tron movie," I'd be like, "Do you want a back rub?"
Yeah, right. Yeah. Pass that balloon.
What?
Yeah. No, it just makes me wonder. Like, thinking about it, it's just part of their image is always hiding their face. Either they're really fucking ugly, or maybe they were old as fuck to begin with. Maybe they were pushing 40 28 years ago.
It's just a way to build. Like, that was that decision. That was the lucky break, right? That they decided to actually go forward with, like, let's just make helmets and wear them everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, that's ultimately what differentiates Daft Punk from Air. Air was like, let's dress like hippies. And Daft Punk was like, let's dress like the future. And the people chose.
Let's see, now, these guys are both your age. One's a 74, one's a 75.
To the audience, let's just be clear. I'm not 74 years old. I was born in the year 75 is what he's saying. Okay. Just want to understand that.
He's hip. He's cool. He's 75.
Oh, yeah, man. This is going to be... I'm approaching my last days of being hip and cool 45.
You're going to be 46.
I didn't even grow a ponytail.
Oh, wow. Yeah, my wife's going to be 44 this year. I'm like, what the fuck? When did you get old?
The Weedsman Podcast. ChristopherMedia.net.
This is Brad Milkey of ABC News Start Here podcast with your sports update. Down one star, the Golden State Warriors keep winning thanks to the rejuvenation of another. We'll explain coming up.
Progressive presents an interview with your upstairs neighbor.
My name's Barry. I live right above you. I don't host parties. I host after parties. They're like parties, only louder and nobody goes home. You can see right here I ripped out all the carpeting because it was holding me back my pogo stick. Man's got a pogo. Oh, I'm a prankster. I'll grease up a soda can, and then when somebody grabs it, boom!
Progressive can't save you from your upstairs neighbor, but we can save you money when you bundle renters and auto insurance with us. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Bundle discount not available in all states or situations.
Warriors star Klay Thompson is out for the 2021 season with a torn Achilles tendon, but in his absence, two-time MVP Steph Curry has stepped up in a big way. Curry sits near the top of the league in points scored and three-pointers made and set a new personal best with 62 points in a single game.
This ABC Sports Update was brought to you by Progressive. Drivers who switch to Progressive can save an average of $668.
Call 1-888-FARMERS to switch, and you could save an average of $470 on your auto insurance. That's a lot of money in just a few minutes. With savings like that, you could be lounging on an impractical amount of ornate and overpriced throw pillows you bought for your couch. But you won't, because you're better with money than that. That's why you're calling us in the first place. Call 1-888-FARMERS to get a quote today.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Based on average nationwide annual savings survey data July to December 2020. Underwritten by Farmers Trucker Fire Insurance Exchanges or affiliate. Products not available in every state. How cutting edge is retail? Find out with a career at Macy's Technology. Help change the face of retail as we leverage cloud technologies to offer customers a personalized experience. Build best-in-class tech stacks, giving customers flexible delivery options, and create solutions which evolve the omni-channel experience in our stores on our top-rated website and mobile app. Go to technology.macysjobs.com to find your next great tech job. Start something, change everything at Macy's Technology. Equal opportunity employer.
This is Brad Milkey of ABC News Start Here podcast with your sports update. Down one star, the Golden State Warriors keep winning thanks to the rejuvenation of another. We'll explain coming up.
Progressive presents an interview with your upstairs neighbor.
My name's Barry. I live right above you. I don't host parties. I host after parties. They're like parties, only louder and nobody goes home. You can see right here I ripped out all the carpeting because it was holding me back with my pogo stick. Man's got a pogo. Oh, I'm a prankster. I'll grease up a soda can and then when somebody grabs it, boom!
Progressive can't save you from your upstairs neighbor, but we can save you money when you bundle renters and auto insurance with us. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers. Bundle discount not available in all states or situations.
Warriors star Klay Thompson is out for the 2021 season with a torn Achilles tendon, but in his absence, two-time MVP Steph Curry has stepped up in a big way. Curry sits near the top of the league in points scored and three-pointers made and set a new personal best with 62 points in a single game.
This ABC Sports Update was brought to you by Progressive. Drivers who switch to Progressive can save an average of $668.
ChristopherMedia.net. The Weedsman Podcast.
So they got the Muppet Show finally on Disney Plus. That's another thing that's going to make it worth my while. So I don't feel like I'm just paying $8 a month to watch the Marvel stuff.
You get to see the warning live and in person.
Yeah. Hey, I bristled at that, as I'm sure most did, because your initial thought is like, I grew up with this shit. I'm fine. What could even their beef be?
Well, it's like it wasn't like it's Looney Tunes. Like we all know Looney Tunes is. There are definitely Looney Tunes we will never see again.
Right, but Looney Tunes that were made during and just after World War II, when it was just okay to hate other races because some of them were evil.
Yeah,
right. I mean, I know I'm painting with a broad brush, but look. There's a lot more tolerance for for racial slurs at that period, during and post World War II. Well, if you wanted to talk negatively about, just pretty much any Asian and German.
But too, also with Looney Tunes, I recall there being tar baby jokes, some mammy jokes.
There's that too,
shit you'll never see again.
So we were a little more woke in the 80s, right? Well, when did this start? This would be
the Muppet Show?
The 70s?
Yeah, wasn't it mid to late 70s?
Did it?
I know most of the Muppet Show I watched was...
I don't know how much I watched that was live and how much was rebroadcast. Yeah. So I'm assuming most of it was rebroadcast because, I wouldn't have... I was born in 75, so I wouldn't have even start comprehending this shit until 1980. So, yeah, I guess I watched all the reruns.
It's a 1976, 5 seasons, according to the Google
there you go.
card.
So I did watch some of it live. It's good to know.
I watched none of it live.
Okay, I was there.
If I did, I was 2 and don't remember.
Like getting older sucks, but those are 2 feathers that I'm gonna keep in my cap. Is that I got to see some of the episodes, at least, of the Muppet Show when they aired. Who knows? I could have seen someone when I was 1, but I wouldn't have remembered any of that. And I saw Star Trek in the theater. I don't remember it, but I was there, and I was told that I loved it.
Which one?
Wait, did I say Star? I said Star Trek.
Oh,
Star
your
Wars.
Your nerd card's your nerd card's up for review.
Star Wars.
Wow.
So it's the first Star Wars was what, 76, 77?
77.
77, yeah. So I was 2 years old. It's not like I remembered it, but old enough to like it because shit. By the time my kid was 2, they were rabid about Star Wars, both of them.
So the Muppet Show.
Oh, yeah, the Muppet Show. Well, look, everything in context, and that's all this is doing. You know, like I said, I bristled at first, but when I actually read an article that described what episodes they were going in front of, such as Joan Baez doing an Indian accent, or Kenny Rogers dressed up as an Arab drilling for oil, or here's the third,
as a what? Drilling for oil?
As an Arab.
Oh. Yeah.
And Johnny Cash performing a song in front of both the American flag and the Confederate flag.
Oh.
Well, I think it should be viewed in context, right?
I mean, it was a thing. The Confederacy was a thing. It at one point represented a section of the country.
Right, but it's also a thing. There's going to be younger people that see that and think, well, okay, so that's where we were at that moment, right? Everyone was fine with the Confederate flag because this was like a big show, right? The Muppet Show. Everybody watched this shit. So everybody accepted the fact that, you know, the Confederate flag was just as acceptable as the American flag. And that's not necessarily the case. I mean, it was certainly more accepted then than it is now, but it was accepted then because there were a lot more white people making decisions at the top that were just like, I don't see the problem with this.
It's cultural relativism.
No, it's not cultural relativism.
Like at the time.
Cultural relative. Well, I see what you're saying. See, look, you're all the other option. Well, I guess you have three options. You just throw this stuff out into the wild, and then people make of it what they will. You put a little tag on the front of it so that people can watch it in context, or you scrub it from the server. I'd much rather they put a little tag that I can completely ignore, just like when the FBI tells me not to copy a tape, or Amazon wants to tell me about what new show is coming out. You know, it's no different than that. It doesn't have to offend me. It's just detritus on the front end of what I want to watch. No big deal. Not even on the screen long enough for me to bother pressing fast forward. I'd much rather have that than not have those episodes available.
I like the first option, though, but I guess we can never do that again. Of just putting it out there and people make of it what they will. Because
But as a parent, though, look, honestly, you know, you don't have kids. So, and I'm not trying to one-up you on this and put this in a context that you can't have a comparison for, so you can't argue. But just so that you understand, like, it's not about censorship. Like, I've never been about censorship. I want my kids to have whatever I think is appropriate available to them. That's pretty liberal. But I also want them to understand it in context. And, you know, having that tag on there, so if I watch an episode with one of my kids, they go, what does that mean? Well, I don't know. Let's watch the episode and find out, right? Oh, this is the Kenny Rogers one, right? And, you know, maybe they go, all right, I get it. Yeah, that's racist. They couldn't get away with that now. Or maybe there's a deeper discussion about it. Why did they think why was that okay then? Or is it okay now and we're just too sensitive to it? You know, I don't know. Like, just dressing up as an Arab isn't racist, right? Would you agree with that statement? Just not being if you're not an Arab and you dress as an Arab, is that in and of itself a racist statement?
Well, based on what goes on now, yeah, it is.
Right. Okay, but to you, if I were just to ask you, does that seem racist to you? If I showed up dressed as an Arab to your Halloween party, would you go, dude, what the fuck?
I would not give a shit. No.
Right. Okay. So not outwardly an obvious racist
However,
statement.
if someone's at the party, takes a picture of you and puts it on Twitter, sit for you.
Oh, I thought you would immediately claim it as racist just to distance yourself from it.
No. I'm just saying, like, everyone's got a cell phone now. Like, dude, you showed up at a Halloween party.
I wouldn't have a problem with it, but that shit goes viral. I'm going to say I knew it all along that dude was a racist. It's not a big deal, right?
It seems to be like it seems like it's there so not saying you, but so people don't have to have the conversations with their children.
Well, some may choose to take the lazy way out, and there's nothing you can do about that. I mean, these would be the same people that would have been just fine if it was scrubbed from the service completely, so they wouldn't even have to come across this filth.
Like, I remember as a kid, my parents, before, I don't even remember the movies, but the conversation of like, hey, there's like some jokes in here that like, people don't make anymore. Like, being parents. Like, and two, to me, it seems like it's planting the seed of like, if you see this and you're not offended, you're a bad person.
Mm-hmm. Well, context matters, especially for stuff like I said, I'm really liberal about what I let my kids watch. But there are certain things that, especially my daughter, she likes, gorier stuff, and she likes more adult movies. Not saying porno, of course. But there's certain things where, like, she'll ask me about, I don't know, let's say American Psycho, right? Hey, I heard this American Psycho is good. It's pretty gory, huh? I'd say, yeah, it is. And, it might be pushing it a little bit for you, but you can always duck out if it gets too gory, right? Let's watch it together.
Also, do you like Huey Lewis in the News?
Right. And I want to watch that with her, because if she's interested in it, she's asking me about it, then she has access to it, she's just going to watch it, right? She already has the interest. I should watch it with her because I can provide a little bit of context for what's going on in this movie.
And also, seriously, if you really like Huey Lewis in the News, this movie will ruin it for you. You will never listen to Huey Lewis in the News the same way ever again.
Funny, I mean, I think Huey Lewis in the News is more popular than ever post American Psycho.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because they're classic rock now. Like, oldies formats are now 80s music.
Yeah.
So Huey's had a little resurgence.
Yeah, Huey Lewis and Hall & Oates, man. People are openly admitting that they love those bands. I'm like, well, finally, you come back around.
I mean, as a kid, I never did not like Huey Lewis. Like, I thought Huey Lewis was cool. Like, I don't know. Like, it wasn't. I mean, obviously, you look at it, you realize it's a bar band, right?
Yeah, but look.
But they all could play all their instruments. They could sing all those harmonies.
How many hits did they have? And
tons.
Like, point to me where. Set aside, I'm sure there's plenty of crap on the deeper album cuts that didn't hit the radio. But out of Huey Lewis and the News' greatest hits, where's the bad song? Point it out to me. You may not like it. You might think that song about growing old together is too corny, and that's fine. I don't always listen to it. It's not a bad song, though. It's a very well constructed and performed song. It's great, actually.
Yeah,
it's too sappy for me, but it's still a great song.
There's some slacks buying music in there, but but you're right. Yeah, still well-crafted pop song.
Yes, the production, a little bit of the production is kind of a victim of its age, but, thankfully they weren't going the drum machine route.
Yeah. And again, too, like, all those dudes could play all those instruments. Yep. It was all those guys singing all those harmonies.
It was real music.
Yeah.
Back when music it meant something. You had to put your lips together and blow hard to make it come out.
Back before the year 2000, when you still had to know how to play your instrument.
Yeah.
The computer couldn't do it for you.
Now these left punks are just pushing buttons. They got an auto sync on their DJ Yap.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, too. That's another thing nobody really ever talks about, is how, computers also killed musicians. They really took the art out of being a DJ. Like, you never really had to, like, if you picked it up post-2000, how many people out there you think really still know how to sync up records?
All right. Mr. Pedantic on the spot here, but I would disagree with that and say that's not where the art is. They took some of the physical skill out of DJing with vinyl, but the art is constructing which songs go well together and making them flow in a way that moves your audience. That's the art of the DJ. So it actually makes the art of the DJ, the core art, easier to access. And that's not.
Yeah, but part
bad.
of the
That's
art was
wrong.
while you were honing the skill, was trying out different records to go, hey,
That's
gotta
part of the
remember,
trick.
got to remember this combo.
Yeah, but that's like saying the core of entertaining is juggling. Like, you got to be a juggler to entertain people. Like, no, there's other ways to do it and not have to rely on your physical prowess of being able to, do the thing of 2 records.
I don't know. It's like I kind of likening it to, like, when you're practicing your instrument, a lot of time it just comes across as noodling, and then all of a sudden one day you realize, oh yeah, this has all of a sudden become something. I'm not just fucking around anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
and that's kind of how I compare that.
Look, that DJ app is just a different tool than the 1200s. And yeah, it's an easier tool to get into, but that doesn't prevent you from creating something just as compelling with it. Now, anytime that the part of the problem is anytime that you give easier access to an instrument, like, mass producing electric guitars or making affordable DJ setups, you're going to get a lot more people that are willing to try it out and fail, and they're going to make bad music in the meantime. And it's going to get a lot of cover to people who want to slack technology in general and go, well, this is just making people make worse music. No, it's making more people make more music. That doesn't mean that they're all going to be good, but the more people that make music, the higher percentage of them that are going to be good.
It's true.
Yeah, I'm all for it. And the best DJ that I ever saw, and probably ever will, and sadly will never get to see again because he passed away, and that was Mike Huckabee. And that man had the skill of aside from the skills of picking out the records and making everything flow right, he had the physical skills of locking 2 records together with a couple of 1200s down pat. And knew his shit. And so he didn't spend any significant amount of time poking at a record and nudging the speed control on it and tweaking and shoving and dragging and all that shit. He brought it up. He put it about where he thought it needed to be. He had made his adjustments, and he never brought that record in until it was locked tight. Then he brings the record in, and then he lets it ride.
Yeah, so, man.
How much of that is really about the art of, anybody outside of, a musician or DJ that would be paying attention to some of the mechanics of what he's doing have any idea the amount of skill that he has, right? And as a matter of fact, if you watch him as an outsider, you might think that guy's doing less than that other guy's doing, because this guy's bouncing up and down and he's poking at his turntable the whole time and he's pushing the record and he's putting his hand on the outside and dragging it. And, some of that's just the theatrics, and that's fine. But what really matters is the end result, not the mechanics of how you got there. It's the same as like a really good guitar player. Like, the guys in Metalocalypse can play as many notes as they can in 1 second. But does that mean it's worth listening to? Is that the art of playing guitar?
No.
Right. So the art of doing the DJ thing isn't keeping the records locked. It's the end result. It speaks for itself.
Fair. All right. You mean fair. You won me over to your side.
But yeah, I mean...
But I was thinking it's lazy, just hitting a button. How fine, I'll say it. This is lazy, just hitting a button. You're not working for it. You hit the sync button.
Yes. And look, there's plenty of shitty DJs out there, more than ever. And they're able to get gigs just because,
they know how to use the sync function.
That's fine. I don't know. Whatever. Right? We're not even talking about DJs on an artistic level. This is like a job level.
Yeah. They had no gigs for last year anyway.
Right. If you're talking about the amount of DJs that are making money, I'm sure there's a lot of money to be made off of DJs who are syncing everything, but, we're not talking about the big name techno artists. Now, some of those are probably making more money than a lot of the techno artists because they're doing weddings and all that shit too. So we're just begrudging them a piece of technology that, like, there's a number of things that you use in radio, right, that make your job easier.
Yeah.
And somebody old school would be like, oh, we didn't have carts back in the day. What is this? We had to line everything. We had to make sure that our turntables were well balanced. We couldn't,
now all you have to do is make sure you talk.
Flutter.
Yeah, now all you have to do is make sure you talk at the appropriate time. The computer does everything.
Right.
You're just jumping in and out.
So keep in mind who the sync button is for. It's for
True.
the wedding DJ, for the amateur, like, honestly.
So Paris Hilton can call herself a DJ.
Yeah. It's just another tool that people are using to help them make their money and do their thing. It's not a tool that serious artists are using,
You mean Prince Paul doesn't use the sync button?
The sync button is like when they decided to make an electric guitar with a speaker built into it. Right?
Oh, those horrible pieces of shit.
Yeah, that's what the sync button essentially is. Like, nobody seriously uses that.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, maybe Iron and Wine has recorded a track with one of those through, a harmonica microphone.
This is a super hipster reference.
I know, right?
Should get a merit badge.
The Weedsman Podcast.
ChristopherMedia.net. This is Brad Milkey of ABC News Start Here podcast with your sports update. Down 1 star, the Golden State Warriors keep winning thanks to the rejuvenation of another. We'll explain coming up.
Progressive presents The Sounds of the Old World.
The year is 2019, and someone is getting up to use the bathroom at the stadium.
Excuse me? Excuse me? Oh, sorry. Excuse me? You mind if I just squeeze by here?
This has been The Sounds of the Old World.
Brought to you by Progressive, where drivers can still switch and save like it's 2019.
Quote today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Warriors star Klay Thompson is out for the 2021 season with a torn Achilles tendon, but in his absence, two-time MVP Steph Curry has stepped up in a big way. Curry sits near the top of the league in points scored and three-pointers made and set a new personal best with 62 points in a single game.
This ABC Sports Update was brought to you by Progressive, making it easy to bundle your home and car insurance.
At Dumbcats created this unsolicited jingle for Popeyes, and it got us dancing.
Chicken sandwiches, chicken sandwiches, chicken sandwiches, I want my chicken sandwiches. I went to Popeyes cause I needed chicken sandwiches. I read on Twitter that it has lots of advantages.
At Dumbcats from Los Angeles, California, on August 25th at 3:55 p.m. Love that chicken from Popeyes.
Love that chicken from Popeyes.
This is Brad Milkey of ABC News Start Here podcast with your sports update. Down 1 star, the Golden State Warriors keep winning thanks to the rejuvenation of another. We'll explain coming up.
Nya nya nya. Ba. Ba. Babue. Zimbabwe. The broken Bunsen burner burns so bright. Southeast Asian Peninsula.
Hey, Jamie?
Yes?
I think the only line we need from you today is drivers who switch to Progressive could save big.
Cool. I just gotta finish my warm-ups. Foul, throw in the towel. History.
Switch to Progressive today.
Santa ski slalom in a salmon skin suit.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Warriors star Klay Thompson is out for the 2021 season with a torn Achilles tendon, but in his absence, two-time MVP Steph Curry has stepped up in a big way. Curry sits near the top of the league in points scored and three-pointers made and set a new personal best with 62 points in a single game.
This ABC Sports Update was brought to you by Progressive, making it easy to bundle your home and car insurance.
ChristopherMedia.net. The Weedsman Podcast.
So a little bit of weed talk before we wrap up today. I couldn't find a ton of news, but luckily, big breaking news right before we got on. And that was the surprise that New Jersey has finally ended its years-long struggle to get legal weed.
Didn't they vote it in, like in November or something? And they've been trying to figure it out? Like what?
Yeah,
what's going on with this?
Well, the issue is that they were running out of their there's a deadline to put together the legislation and have the governor sign it. And there were people in the legislature that were still against legal weed, and so they were stalling. There's a lot of negotiation over things that really they weren't concerned about. It was just a tactic to keep it stalled, to try and run the clock out on it.
And failed. Because Jersey flipped blue. They went from a red governor to a blue governor. So he got it done.
On
finally.
NJ.com, it said Governor Phil Murphy signed 3 bills that together launched a marijuana industry in New Jersey and put an end to thousands of arrests. That's true.
My sister-in-law is jumping for joy.
In a statement, as of this moment, New Jersey's broken and indefensible marijuana laws, which permanently stained the records of many residents and short-circuited their futures, and which disproportionately hurt communities of color and failed the meaning of justice at every level.
I thought you were going to get
social or
through
otherwise.
I thought he was
no
just
more.
He almost made it.
Yeah.
Okay, so when racism's still around in a year, what's your excuse?
Yeah.
When brown people are still going to jail in 5 years, what's going to be your scapegoat then?
Yeah, and really this does absolutely nothing for that, right? Because if the cops still want to be shitheads about pot or want to harass people of color out on the streets, then there's probably plenty of, open enjoying of cannabis, regardless of its legal status, that they can go after. So, does this law, there's everywhere we have legal cannabis, we have no public consumption, right? So you can't, most hotel rooms, you can't do this shit.
I can sit on my porch and smoke it, but if my neighbor smells it, they can call the cops.
Right. So that leaves plenty of opportunities for police to use this. I mean, if you're concerned about police using cannabis as a way to go after people of color, legalization helps, but it's not the ultimate answer. Because the ultimate question is how much racism is okay for you to have on your police force, right? Yeah. Not about how racist you think the cannabis laws might be.
I bet there's still plenty of people of color being arrested for alcohol violations.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Alcohol's been legal for 100 years.
And in racist ways, I'm sure there's same cops who would show up to a white person's house that would be like, or not even showing up to the house, pull them over blocks from their house, drunk, and go, well, you're almost there. Just go on. And meanwhile, they would, wait for a person of color to pull out of their driveway so they could bust them. I'm not saying this happens by pride. I'm not making any specific accusations, but I'm just saying, if that's what you're talking about, ultimately, the racist way that the police enforce the law, this law has nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
Yes, this will affect people of color in the same way that it affects everyone who would want to purchase and enjoy cannabis. If anything, it just sounds, and I think if we were to dig this record out of this statement out of the vaults in 20 years and read it again, we're like, why was he so fixated on black people? That's kind of racist, right?
Yeah.
It's like he's getting up there and saying, hey, guess what? We're making weed legal. Am I right, black people? I know you like it. I know you like it. Yeah. Yeah, don't lie. I did this for you because you love this shit. You love marijuana. That's what I know about black people. That's almost what it comes off as.
Yeah, but you're middle-aged and white. You can't say that. That's the rules of the game.
Yeah. And not to mention that this is just another thing that's been equated to race when it's really about poverty.
Yep.
Ask any poor person who's gotten pulled over with a little bit of weed on them. You know, or for that matter, if the cops want to bust somebody for weed, they're going after the fucking, 1995 Camry that's got two different colored doors on it from a salvage.
White people get profiled too. Be white and drive a shitty car.
Yeah. They're not going to pull over the Beamer because they're like, I don't need that grief. That person's like a lawyer or knows a lawyer.
Yeah, that person can afford a lawyer. Yeah, exactly.
Yes. I don't need that shit. I need somebody that's not going to show up for their court date. That motherfucker right there. Whether he knows it or not, probably has a roach on the floor of his car, and I can find it.
Cops go for low-hanging fruit.
There's my quoted.
Yeah, no, trust me. We all have that friend that just always got arrested.
Because he had to put the pot sticker on the car?
No, I just mean in general. Like, dude just had, it was a combination of bad luck and bad decisions, which it made for an interesting decade for him called his
Chris,
20s.
You didn't know me back then. I was that friend. But I was the one who never paid his tickets, always had a suspended license for some reason, always had a warrant out for his arrest for some dumb shit. And I was like, I wasn't violent. I wasn't out of control. I was just like, I didn't give a fuck. The government mailed me things, and I was like, I have a mailbox.
I mean,
I get all my information from flyers that are put in my hand at parties. If you didn't contact me through that, I don't know that my license is suspended.
This dude had the kind of luck of the day he gets off probation, gets pulled over, and there's like an empty cigarette box under his seat from months ago with a roach in it.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they're fucking looking for. And black's part of that equation, right?
Being white helped him zero in this situation.
I'm not saying that it wouldn't be. I'm not saying that, like, if a cop saw two people drive by in shitty cars, one of them's black and one of them's white, they might just go, well, let's go for the black one. That's a more of a sure thing, right?
Yeah. I can see that conversation happening.
So it's a factor. But yeah, I like your point on this too, though, which is that if you keep putting this out there, like this is another key to solving racism, then there's going to be a lot of questions when racism doesn't go away.
Yeah. You made weed legal and said brown people were going to stop getting arrested.
Yeah, what happened to that?
We meant for weed.
And there's a real danger in that, If you consider yourself like, maybe you're not really politically engaged, but you're like, well, I'm not racist and I want to do my part. So, well, yeah, if this is unduly affecting black people, let's get rid of this.
Let's be honest.
Right? Like, I don't have a dog in the fight. Maybe I don't smoke marijuana. Or maybe I do, but I have a friend who grows it. And it's never been an issue. And yeah, so a cop saw me with it once and I was like, sorry, I'll put it back in my purse, because I'm white and it was not in middle class and it wasn't a big deal, right? But if this is unduly affecting black people, then yeah, let's go ahead and legalize it then. And then what? And then you dust your hands off and you go, hey, I did my part. I solved racism, right?
Yeah.
You keep tagging these things as like paths to solving racism when they don't actually tackle racism. That's the real danger, because you have a lot of people who consider themselves allies, who think they're doing something for the cause, and they're doing absolutely nothing. And the issue of racism isn't moved forward at all.
Hashtag blank. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's virtue signaling. It's really what it is.
Like, yeah. I just think if you want to talk racism in the media, then talk racism. Don't attach it to something else.
Yeah.
Don't tell us that there was racism in something that we just never saw before. Dude, let's talk. We're adults. We can identify racism when we see it. We don't need to be told what is and isn't racist.
Hey man, it's the thing to say right now, right? Everyone loves to lecture. Like that's what I hit like a year and a half ago. I just hit fatigue of like I'm tired of being lectured. And I know what's right and wrong.
Even like I hesitate to talk about this sometimes because it comes off as like I'm being the guy that's like, oh, we already solved racism. Why are we still talking about this? Like, no, I understand that it's a real problem that needs to be addressed. The issue is that all of the things that you're labeling as racist have nothing to do with the core issue of racism.
Yes.
And is not going to get us to a solution. That's the problem. Racism is a real issue in this country, a dangerous issue in this country. And if we keep tagging everything with racism, we're never going to get to the core of what our problem is.
If everything's racist, then nothing's racist.
Same thing like when we've talked about the word rape and what it means to rape or violate somebody. And it's like, you're just obfuscating the real victims in this.
Oh, it's 2021.
Yeah.
We're dinosaurs now. We're relics. We used to be the most progressive people in the room. That didn't take long. I thought we'd at least be like north of 50 before this happened.
Well, it's all cyclical. This will live forever in digital format, potentially, and we'll be long gone from this planet. Somebody will go, hey, those heads were all right.
Your days are coming. Okay, Xer.
Or we're just two more white dudes, old white dudes yelling into the void.
Right. The podcast void. Any other weed news?
No, that was it. I mean, there's always weed news, but it's just all like little shit. Big land war. That seems to be getting a lot of traction. With all these states coming online with programs, people are really starting to go, oh, wait a minute, we got to consider land that we're going to grow all this shit on. Like, even if you do hydroponic, you still have to have some pretty big area mapped out for it.
Well, yeah, a lot
want to mass produce.
Well, a lot of commercial warehouse space is being sold for that stuff.
Yeah, so that's shooting the price up. Well, I mean, so that's shooting the price of the property up, which is only going to, in the end, shoot the price of the product up, and that's going to be anywhere where it's expanding. So, I'm not saying this is one of those things that the government should come in and control, but they might want to consider some more tax breaks for this kind of stuff, because now if you have to pay a premium to get, like before, people that were getting early on into this market, they were going, oh yeah, we can get some fucking space out that really, there's industrial spaces all over the U.S. that are just abandoned, right? If you're growing weed in them, doesn't matter what your location is. You don't need to be close to anything. You don't want to be in a downtown area or have heavy traffic or anything like that. You want something kind of off the grid.
You don't want people to know where you're at. Yeah.
Right. So you were able to, that was part of the appeal of it. The startup cost, even though it's a pretty big operation, when you look at it compared to other businesses, your startup costs are relatively low, or at least they were. Now that's starting to become more and more expensive. As land goes up in cost, the weed goes up in cost. The more the weed goes up in cost, the less you sell on the legal market. So, yeah, I mean, we should be doing this with land subsidies the way that we would do any big deal. Amazon wants to make a new headquarters somewhere, or Trump wants to build somewhere. They put a stadium up somewhere, and they look at it and go, well, this is going to attract business. This is going to, this is a positive thing. This is going to generate tax money. So we should be, doing some land grants for this, or whatever the fuck they do, tax breaks, shit like that.
But that would make sense. You can't have the government and making sense.
Yeah.
In the same sentence.
Unfortunately. So, I mean, what that portends for the legal market, I guess, means that eventually somebody will disrupt, but they'll have to do it in a really big way, right? So it wouldn't come until after federal legalization, and they are able to, if they ever do, loosen up rules about interstate travel and commerce with cannabis. And then somebody with a shit ton of money can come in and Amazon the fuck out of the marijuana industry, and it'll make it cheaper for everyone, and all that money will go to the hands of few people. And the unfortunate thing is that's not the only way that cannabis has to go. That's not the inevitable for anything in the market. If you make the market accessible enough early on, then you do give people with some independent brand to build strength to that brand. and have something that actually can compete when the Amazon of weed wants to come in and wipe you out. And you can say, no, actually, we've got some brand loyalty here, and people might want to try out the hip new thing, but they're going to come back to us. You know, we've got loyalty to us. But if you don't allow those smaller businesses to develop in competitive ways, then you're just leaving it open for a massive Amazon type disruption, and that's all we'll have. We'll have Amazon weed, and we'll have the black market and a few, like, handful of specialty mom and top type shops, you know?
I want to get in on an Amazon of weed, be my retirement.
I mean, yeah. I want to get, if you're talking about how I'm going to invest my money, but how the market that I want to see. Because that's the thing. I'm not saying like the choices between getting cheap, homogenized weed from the Amazon style model versus paying a premium for a mom and pop store. I'm saying you can have independent or smaller owned cannabis businesses that can be competitive.
Oh yeah, it happens with beer. You have your big boys, your Budweisers, your Coors, your Millers, but yeah, craft breweries are absolutely a thing that are successful.
Sure. Yeah, they're successful, but I mean, I don't know, but what are the numbers like on it? Does anybody are they any threat at all to Anheuser-Busch?
Yeah, when they do, Anheuser-Busch buys them. Yeah. Anheuser-Busch has acquired quite the craft beer.
Right, yeah, there you go.
Portfolio. Oh, absolutely.
Right, so that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. No, there's been plenty of beer snobs who got their panties in a bunch because their favorite brand got bought out because they were making a dent. So Anheuser-Busch just goes, hey, you're putting a dent in our sales. How about we make your sales our sales?
Yeah. But I just think, it's just one of those unfortunate sides of capitalism that I think that's what we have regulation for. Because anytime that you do something to hobble a business in some way, you have to know that you're leaving an opportunity for somebody else that's eventually gonna find the workaround, right? And the way that our current market is set up, that only happens on really big levels, right? It can't be, a small guy can't disrupt the market because you have to do it all at once. You have to say, okay, we're the Amazon of weed, and everywhere in the U.S. you can get Amazon's weed right now. We'll ship it to you in 2 days.
Oh, that would be glorious.
Well, in 2 days, like, why is that glorious? You can have shit. You can get shit in 2 hours right now.
Well, also with Amazon, depends on where you live. There's a lot of Amazon. What's it called? Amazon Now. Like you order shit and it'll be with your house within a couple hours.
No, that's true. Like if I'm actually thinking about the Amazon model for weed, it would have to be like within the hour, I think.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what would be the point?
And then Bezos still gets paid. I'm surprised they haven't gotten in on that yet, especially being headquartered in the state they're in.
Well, how do you?
You just do it where you can.
Amazon's not interested in selling stuff to individual states. That's not how its business model is structured.
They could start with, I don't know, the entire, I almost said left coast, the entire West Coast. Weed is literally anywhere the Pacific Ocean touches in the United States, weed is legal.
Yeah, but
Chicago has legal weed. That's a huge market,
But you also have to work within the state borders everywhere that you sell. Amazon doesn't, they have shipping centers locally, right? Stocked with all this shit. But they're not making all this shit in Michigan.
Wouldn't it be like then you only do the in the States?
This shit's only profitable because it's mass produced by the billions overseas and shipped over here. That's the only way that I'm able to get a fucking, electric mixer for $19.99.
It's true. If all that shit was made here, Amazon Prime would be like $50 a month.
Right. So now you have bespoke, individual plants producing cannabis to ship out within that state per the rules of that state. And you can't even make a blueprint for what that business looks like and just go, because that's how you successfully franchise, right? You make a blueprint and you go, okay, in this state, boom, put one of these down. Go to this state, put another one down, right? There's some different regulations everywhere you go, but you at least know that the regulations are unified enough so that you can have a business model that you can kind of plug into any situation. And it's too all over the place for that to be a profitable model for somebody like Amazon. Now, they could make it a loss leader if they saw potential to be cemented in that market by the time federal legalization hits. But, I don't know. I was going to say I guess they don't see the need to go into that market, but I don't know. There must be something else because Amazon will go into any market that they think they could make a dime off of.
Yeah.
So
Amazon just likes money.
So I'm sure that there's thoughts of it. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's thoughts at Amazon where they're like, so there's somebody making money and we're not getting any of it. So how do we change that?
Right. We buy them and then make their money.
Because Daddy needs a new pair of jets. His and hers now. Because he's got to give one of them away.
That's true. It's part of the settlement. All right. So follow us on the Twitter at the Weisman420. Email the Weisman Podcast, ChristopherMedia.net. Like us on Facebook, on Instagram, at the Weisman Podcast. I got to figure out how to make that active again. This is too big of a following to just kind of sit there. But the last time a year ago, I tried to work it, and all of a sudden, you can't post pictures of weed. Well, that's kind of what we do.
You're talking about on the Facebook?
On Instagram.
On Instagram, yeah, because they're owned by Facebook now. I think as soon as they were bought by Facebook, they had the same rules for cannabis.
Not necessarily, because when Rob was running it, Facebook owned it, and Rob was able to. There was all kinds of people taking bong hits and pictures of trees.
Well, eventually they adopted the same rules.
Yeah, no, they did something in April last year because when I first started working it again, I could do it, and then all of a sudden I'd throw up pictures of weed and they get taken down. And it was like,
I wonder how we get around it. Maybe if we put a filter on it that made all the weed red.
Right. I don't know.
I know. You can post pictures of weed, and then you just hashtag fried chicken, and then the filter won't catch it because it'll think it's fried chicken.
Maybe
not.
I don't know. But yeah, the Weisman Podcast on Instagram. Go to ChristopherMedia.net and hit either the PayPal button or the Amazon banner if you would like to help us out. And listen to us everywhere. Literally. And everywhere that catches an RSS feed, we are there.
Yes. It sounds like a command. Listen to us everywhere.
Yes.
Now. Go and listen to this show on your iPhone, and then go listen to it on your Android device.
Yes.
The everywhere. Same show.
Yes, we want multiple downloads from you. But Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, Audible, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, Stitcher, and now YouTube. You can listen to us. Please rate us. Leave us a review wherever you can. Helps other people find us.
Please rate us. Don't hate us.
Yes.
That's my new
rate, don't hate. If you're going to hate, just keep moving.
Yeah, exactly.
And stay high.
Stay high.
Milky of ABC News Start Here podcast with your sports update. Down one star, the Golden State Warriors keep winning thanks to the rejuvenation of another. We'll explain coming up.
Me, but also you. The Pharaoh fast forwards his favorite foreign film, Powder Donut. Okay, what's my line?
The only line I see here on the script is get options based on your budget with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive.
Oh man, that's a tongue twister, huh? I'm sorry, I'm gonna need a few more minutes. Bulbous Walrus, the Bulbous Walrus.
The Name Your Price tool, only from Progressive.
The owl ran afoul of the comatose coxswain.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
Warriors star Klay Thompson is out for the 2021 season with a torn Achilles tendon, but in his absence, two-time MVP Steph Curry has stepped up in a big way. Curry sits near the top of the league in points scored and three-pointers made and set a new personal best with 62 points in a single game.
This ABC Sports Update was brought to you by Progressive. Drivers who switch to Progressive can save an average of $668.
Dunkin' is here to help keep you up and running, Philadelphia, with a free medium hot coffee Monday through Friday, once a week for members only. So grab a cup of the new Explorer batch with smoky dark berry notes that's an adventure in every sip. Or give a try to the new Dunkin' Midnight, a richer, intensely dark roast with hints of chocolate. Get one free medium hot coffee once a week, Monday through Friday for members. Join the Dunkin' app today. America runs on Dunkin'. Exclusions apply. Participation may vary. Limited time offer valid through January 29th.
The Weedsman Podcast. ChristopherMedia.net.